So welcome to the second video in this sequence where we're changing out the Volvo engine and generator on our boat Akitas. In this episode we're going to be preparing the main engine to be lifted out and getting the sail drive, the unit that actually goes beneath the hull and drives the boat along, getting that out of the boat ready to remove the main engine. So this video is about swapping out this MD22 Volvo for a new Volvo D260 on our yacht Akitas. As you can see, the engine is fitted under the sink unit in the galley. It's quite tight to be able to work on, so I've got to find a way of getting this out, dismantled and then out, because it's going to have to come out as a smaller piece than you see here. That's a sail drive, and you can see the amount of piping and wiring that's got to be removed to allow the engine to come out. I took lots of photographs of the original engine so that I know how it will go back together again, so that I could put it back together for a potential new owner. I was also interested in the sail drive and how that bolted down, because we were swapping that out for a new one. Also the electrics and how they went together, so we could tie that in with a new system for the new motor. Golden Arrow sent us some photographs of the new engine as it was being commissioned, and we got lots of spare parts from them to go with it. And this is I think there was a little video of it actually running on its stand before they packed it up to come to us. I had to make an assessment of the seacocks and everything that was required to run the motor, make sure they were in good shape and or cleaned up.
That's dry, looks it.
Yeah, looks really dry. Some new valve on there. The issues that we needed to make sure was actually that the engine would fit in. We knew we had some sizes, and we had to look at the plans and look at the existing engine, and made some little cardboard models to make sure it all went together. In the last video you saw us remove the old generator so we could get access to the sail drive. This is just moving the engine out onto a wooden table, and then we rigged up a little A-frame over it to lift it off the table and onto the floor so I could slide it through to the main saloon. The generator's now out, which is great. Okay, so we've got the table out. We've now got one of the pots, the exhaust pots, out. So that sits on a stainless steel frame that goes in there somewhere. I'm going to take the second one out and then begin to move some of the tubular as well. Some of the tubes and the exhaust hose and air vent conduit. So the engine bay is looking a bit emptier now. Still got the frame up, but we'll need that for the engine. So most things are out here. There's still quite a few large pipes and cables in here. The main thing I need to remove, and I need to figure out how to do that, is going to be the steering cables and this unit down here where the steering cables go through the blue things. They're going to be awkward to remove because I'm going to have to undo one end of the steering cables, either in the stern or maybe in the cockpit at the steering wheel itself. Okay, so we've got a few more things out. We've got the two exhaust pots, the water exchanger, the exhaust elbow and piping for that, and the vents. We've got those out. We also managed to get out the supports for the table that the generator sits on, together with the fan unit, and the upper frame is through the back of the V-berth there. So we did okay today. It doesn't look perhaps as spectacular as it certainly took a lot of work to get them out. Lots of wiggling of pipes and pulling things off and persuading pipes to come loose.
Well, today, flushed with our success of yesterday, we've got some cleaning up to do in the aft cabin in the generator house. So I've been having some difficulties in getting the lift beam in above the engine itself, and obviously need a lift point up the top here somewhere. And there was a cable tray at the top there, so that had to be removed. And I'm going to have a vertical piece that comes down into this gap here and sits on a wooden block on the floor, and then I should be able to get a lift point to be able to lift the engine above here and move it forward slightly so it'll disengage from the sail drive. And then once the sail drive's out, then I'll be able to slide this back, and I'm hoping to get it out through this space here where the generator is. If I slide it along and then lift it out through the back and then take it out the same route as the generator. Well, today I've got another day working on the engine. I stripped out the 2 alternators and the starter motor on Saturday, and we had some friends over that helped us take the mainsail down, and Mary dismantled the canopy cover. So we've got a large top hole in over the cabin top because we do get some leaks through the hatch, believe it or not, if we don't have the spray hood up. So my plan today is to try and get the engine and the connection between that and the sail drive separated, and because it's raining outside really heavily, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to taking the prop off, but I might be able to do that if I get a break in the weather. So that's my plan today. Did have quite a successful week last week. Got the generator out and up and into the cabin area, and I've talked to the yard about getting that lifted off the boat by their little yard crane, so that will be great if they can do that for us. It'll save me rigging up something off the boom to get it over the side. But I would like to make that more efficient by having both motors ready at the same time.
So this is the space I've got to work in to get the sail drive out, and I've got to decide what I'm actually going to take off the main engine so that I can get it out.
So tomorrow we're planning on going to Owen Sails over on the west coast. It's probably the best of the days during the week apart from Thursday. We're going to take the sails there, and we're going to take the bimini that needs, we're going to put a larger panel in that to allow us to see the sails when we've got the bimini up, and some modifications to the sides. Owen's made a good job of the bimini sides to make an enclosure up there, but there were a few things we wanted altered. We're also going to get some strata glass in the spray hood so that we can see a bit clearer when we're sitting in the cockpit. Otherwise it's a case of looking over the top of the spray hood between the bimini and the spray hood to be able to see ahead. So it doesn't give you a great view over there, and it lets a lot of cold air in if it's a very cold day. That's the plan tomorrow, so it's a day's expedition to Oban. So today I want to crack on and try and get this engine apart from its sail drive, and see if we can also look at getting some other parts off the engine so that I can assess which direction I'm going to take the engine out. Still not completely sure it's going to come out where the generator was. Might come out the side hatch door where the little technical room is. So as I said earlier in the video, yesterday I didn't video much of this. I did take the alternator off here. You can see the belts remaining there. I need to mark up which one came off which alternator.
This is what it looked like before I took them off.
I also took off in this area here, I took off the starter motor and labelled all the cables that went to it, so that I can put that back together when I get it out of the boat. And I'm selling the motor to somebody who wants to maybe rebuild it and use it on their boat.
And this was the starter motor before I dismantled it and removed it. It's amazing how useful photos are to be able to figure out how it all went together originally. It's definitely worth doing a good photograph job on everything you take apart.
The electronics package, I think it's relays and things that are in that box, disconnected that because I think that also attaches to the back of the engine, and it'll be, if it's out of the way, it's less likely to get damaged. And you can see the main problem I've got at the moment is this the unit that's actually allows cables to come round it to go to the steering quadrant and up to the wheel. I've dismantled it, but it's probably going to be in the way if the motor comes out that way. So I've got to make a decision on whether the motor comes out that way or it goes out the side door. So the small tasks today include unbolting obviously the joint between the sail drive and the engine. I'm going to try and put some wood in up under the sump on the engine so I can slide it forward to enable that joint to open up. I'm going to unbolt the connection with the rubber seal that goes through the sail drive hole into obviously into the seawater, and undo that. And I'm going to try and undo the prop and dismantle that and pull the prop. I've got my prop puller with me, which I'm hoping is big enough to do this job. I use it normally for engine maintenance and stuff, so I'm hoping this two foot puller will be enough to pull the bronze central casting off the propeller unit as it comes apart. There's lots of it takes apart, and then you have to pull a piece off the prop. So hopefully we'll be able to do that a bit later on today if the weather breaks, but it is miserable today.
So this is the greasy, oily space I've got to work in to get the sail drive out.
Also a question on whether I should replace all the tubing that goes to the engine. Certainly there's the main exhaust one needs to be replaced. I'm not sure about this one, which goes from the exhaust pot to the external hull fitting. I'm not sure if I need to change that one. Same applies to the other one for the generator, which is this one down here that runs through here. But all of these will just have had warm water in them, and they look in pretty good condition, so I'm not convinced that I need to swap those out. There's also a set of pipes which run up to the vents in the cockpit. So these are cockpit drains, which will need to be in there for any water that gets into the cockpit. So we may have to either rig something up over the cockpit to stop water getting in there, or have a temporary drain or a smaller drain for this, just while we're up and in on the hard, to allow water to get away. So it'll give me a little bit more space and wiggle room to get the engine out.
So I took out the oil cooler and a few of the pipes that went with it.
So this would be the side door if it does come out this way. It will be a lift up, try and turn and see if I can get it through the door, and then lift it further and get it out here and into the area which is sort of the technical room area, because I've taken the doors off, and then slide it up here, maybe lift it from here up into the saloon, or slide it up the floor.
So I don't think I'm going to have to take the injectors and the fuel pump and all the fuel systems off to get the engine out, but this oil extraction pump needs to go, and the piping associated with it.
So this is the alternate route, would be coming out of here, dismantling the engine, pulling it aft into this area here once I've taken the sail drive out. This would be the steering quadrant wires that I need to figure out what I'm going to do with. They're kind of loose, but whether they'll be enough giving them to move them over to the side, I don't know. And then I'll have to slide it up a ramp to get it into this area, or lift it from the floor and get something under it to get it out. But it's by no means a straightforward move, this, so it may be the only route to get it out, but I'm going to have a look at both routes once I've dismantled the engine sufficiently to assess what the best move is.
A bit of disaster and flooded the engine bay with coolant when I opened one of the hoses.
Okay, so feeling much better this morning. Managed to get the prop and everything off. It was a bit of a struggle yesterday. I'll maybe talk you through it. These are all the bits of the prop. Basically it has a hub, which is this unit, so a little spacer, a hub, there's a nut goes inside that, and then there's a device here that goes inside there, which you turn depending on how you want the prop set up. There's a carrier for the bearings for the prop, for the props turn like this, and then there's a hub cover in there and some anodes. So I got most things off. There's a front plate that where is it? Yeah, sorry, it's not a front plate. It's actually the front end of the bearing housing. So you take that off, there's 3 Allen screws, take that out, and then basically the front of the prop comes off, so the blades will then come out of their housing together with this double cog, which sets up the various profiles they need for setting the prop up. And on one of these teeth, somewhere in here, there is a little notch, so you can see it just there, and that's the one that you actually put in. There are a series of letters in here, you can see around the rim presumably there, there's a series of letters, so you put that into that slot depending on how much rotation you want for the blade. So ours is set at 22 degrees, that seems to be, and I think that's setting E on here, somewhere around there. So we'll put that back in that way. The biggest problem I had was late last night, and it was throwing it down, that's why I didn't film anything outside. I could not get this nut, so this goes on the end of the shaft that comes out the sail drive and basically tightens this hub onto the shaft. I could not move this. I had my normal socket set on it, and I had the starter, I had a key in the starter way in the engine to stop the drivetrain turning. There was no way I can stop the props rotating on the shaft. There's just no way I can set that up so that I could jam something under the hull. So that's the only way I could do it. And I could not move this at all, and I worried about it all night. Wondered how I was going to manage to get that off in the morning. Came in, put a little bit of heat on it with a gas, little gas torch. Not a lot of heat, because I wasn't sure that there was any bearings in there. I just wanted to warm it up, just in case they'd put Loctite on it. And I literally put this on, which is my breaker bar, which I brought with me. I thought if it's not going to move, then I'll threaten it with this. And I put that on it, and I literally put my hands pressure onto it, and the nut moved and came off. So it must have just been Loctite that was holding it here, and it really was not going to move at all last night. I had the normal socket set on it, and I braided on it with a hammer a couple of times. Wasn't moving, I didn't want to break anything. So just a lesson learned. This is supposed to have, and you can see down the side of these, there's supposed to be a little pin that goes in here. If I line that one up there, can you just see that in there? Yeah, I think you probably can. Just down in that one there, you put a pin in there. Once you've got this tight, you put a pin in to lock it. Well, there were no pins in it, so they must have just replaced those with Loctite. Anyway, story finishes, looks all good, so quite happy with that, and we'll proceed with shifting the engine now. So that's the sail drive out. Bit of a struggle, but at least it gives you access to the back of the engine to be able to get everything lined in when it goes back in, and I haven't been able to support the back of the engine particularly easily, so that chain through the back there has been pretty good, and everything else seemed to come apart once it got unbolted. So where did we get to on this video? Well, we've got most of the preparations done to get the engines out. We've taken out the generator itself and put that into the saloon. We've removed the sail drive, and we've taken several pieces off the main engine, so we're ready to take that one out, and all the lift beams and A-frames are in position to make that lift. So that's the end of the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you do, share, subscribe, like it, click the little button for the bell, and that'll enable you to see the next videos in the sequence. So bye for now.